Hey guys, how are you? Good to be checking in with you. In sunny Stockholm, sunny Stockholm. This is the Grand Hotel that I'm fortunate to be staying in over the last few days. Built in 1874 by a Frenchman, and the home of the first banquet of the Nobel Prize in 1901. That's right, the Nobel Prize. So you're seeing it in all its glory there. Ubiquitous Rolls Royces out front and all of that, all la-di-da. And what a beautiful view. We had a view of the bay as well out there. The King's Palace is just the other side. It's so close. You could almost feel like you could go up to his door and knock and say hello and ask for a cup of tea. Anyway, why Stockholm? I'll tell you a little bit what I'm doing here. The pursuit of ethical financial services brokers, an ongoing one. What if you could get around the EU rules that have circumvented leverage and still have a highly legitimized, high integrity, safe nation as your broker that could give you really good service, good fills, not be of the Cyprus Israeli type bend, the binary options realm, but not be constrained by the EU. Anyway, that's just a thought. The real video here I want to do with you, while the horns are going off in the background, is 2 days of New York Times headlines and 2 days of Financial Times headlines. Now, I don't typically do these sort of things, read these kind of media. A blow has just suddenly kicked off right by me, as it does when you're recording. I don't do these kind of medias. I don't buy the Financial Times. I don't buy the New York Times either. And I can say there's reasons why. But I occasionally come across headlines, and of course they were for free today and the last few days while we were here on our business trip. And I thought I'd just give you a quick snapshot, because every now and then I check in with exactly what's going down. So let's have a look at your news as brought to you by the Financial Times. It was so quiet, and now the roads have got really busy. I hope the audio is good. First of all, today's Financial Times. Global banks handed 1 billion in fines for rigging foreign exchange rates. Global banks handed 1 billion in fines for rigging foreign exchange. Foreign exchange, remember, is the market to end all markets in terms of scales. You're talking trillions, and when you take derivative instruments, quadrillion as scale. And here you have banks such as, wait for it, the usual skullduggery list: Barclays, Citigroup, Royal Bank. There has to be the JP Morgan in there somewhere, and sure enough, they are there. There is a Japanese bank involved, and there are Swiss banks involved, but weren't fined. They were given leniency after appealing for leniency, after it was exposed that there were chat rooms where traders were communicating big orders that were being placed or needed to be placed by major clients, sharing that information, front-running it, rigging the rates on major currency pairs. So for those of you that say it's impossible that the gold or the silver markets could be rigged, contemplate the nature of even short-term rigging financial foreign exchange rates. And of course, you need a lot of banks to be working together. You need a lot of folk in them. And of course, the narrative is, oh, it's a few bad apples. And note, nobody goes to jail. Nobody goes to jail. So that's your Financial Times headline, the main one on today's paper, apart from, of course, Saudi leads new pounding of Yemen. You know, that poor little nation of Yemen that deserves to be pounded in the dust by Israel's medieval friend and America's petrodollar fan and supporter. We look away while we sell them Mirages, fighter planes and other weaponry. What else have we got for you? Let's finish with the Financial Times and do yesterday's Financial Times. WhatsApp hack. A WhatsApp hack allowed security spyware to be loaded on your phones. WhatsApp hack. Security spyware to be loaded on your phones. Okay, your friend Schmuckerberg owner of WhatsApp, notice how all these things have suddenly gone real bad since Facebook's ownership, is basically, I had a little whoopsie accident, and now guess what? All the security firms have kind of accidentally all embedded their secrecy spyware on all your devices through my app. I really didn't expect this to happen. This was such a terrible mistake. Okay, sorry, carry on. All right, that's your Schmuckerberg matey. Can WhatsApp. The damage may already be done. New phones will probably be already pre-embedded, assuming the existing ones weren't. Can WhatsApp out your life? Use Signal, use Telegram, use any of the others. It's a Facebook-owned messaging system. Everything you do on there is like writing it on a stone tablet in the town center hall with a surveillance camera that beams it across to the world. Everything you say is known and shared and spread and is collected by the NSA, the GCHQ in whatever they are called in Britain, in Reading. They have it all, and he's given it to them all accidentally on purpose. Get rid of this guy once and for all. Get rid of his sickly app. That's some good news from the Financial Times, confessing to you how the control structure, the pink sheets, the Rothschild magazine, confessing to you how they have embedded themselves on your phones, and this guy is the conduit. He's the Trojan horse in your stuff. Okay, let's have a look at the New York Times. Is it any better a paper or a read? Inside Syria's torture prisons, so that they're keeping the heat up on Syria, like there wasn't torture in Guantanamo Bay of any variety. US tariffs, once merely leveraged, are set to stay. So they're the little one on the left. So let's talk tariffs and this whole Punch and Judy show that Trump is waging against China. So here's how it works. If I put a tariff on China's goods and they have to pay a whole bunch of money to sell those same level of goods in my country, what actually happens is the Chinese can't make a profit anymore, so they put prices up to pay for, to embed the cost of those tariffs. So Walmart comes along, needs to buy their stuff. Whoopsie daisy, because of tariffs, that stuff now costs more because the Chinese have to embed greater, because they're at their margin. They can't lose profit margin. You can squeeze their margin a little bit, but you can only go so far. Once you've squeezed it beyond a certain point, then you have to build in the cost. You can't take it. So there'll be a little bit of margin squeezing for a bit because the US is a big market, and the rest will get embedded. In other words, Trump will push prices up for American citizens with his tariff strategy. Perfect. China says they'll reprise. Okay, I'll tax my citizens and make you pay, China. And China goes, yeah, that's terrible. We'll do the same. We'll tax our citizens. That'll hurt you. So all that actually happens is, in an environment where everyone says there's no inflation, costs and prices go up because you're taking away the one benefit of globalization, which was relative advantage that saw the lowest cost producers produce globally everything for you. You're now deglobalizing, and I'm all for deglobalizing, but that's the one part that doesn't work. In other words, let's go back to being sovereign states, but no. The globalization benefit at least saw you get cheap goods, but it meant you lost your own manufacturing. So what happens? Americans pay more for Walmart products and everything else. It's not just Walmart that stocks up on Chinese ware. You're going to pay for those tariffs. It's a tax. Who gets the money out of China? The government. The government gets an income and you pay more. So what's that called? You end up paying more for stuff and the government has a new income. It's a tax on you. Indirectly, it's a tax on you. That's how tariffs work. That's what you need to understand. Okay, debunking the mainstream media today. New York Times yesterday. So we've had 2 days of New York Times, 2 days of Financial Times. Let's get you this one. Nice old picture. Let's get this headline in view so you can see it. Russia wants Americans to dread 5G. Look at that little small one. Let's run with that one, shall we? Russia wants Americans to dread 5G. So this is an American paper made for the American audience that want to stay in touch with their American propaganda system when they're traveling in Sweden. And as a result, they'll have a look at the New York Times. Let's change the backdrop for you. What do you say? Is it a bit too bright? No, that's okay. So what do? they are creating the tie-up that any questioning of the health of 5G, of having a wireless on every single lamppost, close proximity, micro-tight wireless network that is going to be the most shrink-wrapped wireless network you've ever had, that can only reach certain distances and going to have to be replicated with receivers and all over the place, that you will always be within 50 meters of one. Any questioning that having all of these wireless waves bouncing around is good for you or not will be deemed as you succumbing to the Russian propaganda. Oh, you are on one of those, you know, the Washington Post said that the Russians don't want you to have 5G. They're trying to win the technology wars, you know, and the way they're going to do it is warn you about health, health-related aspects. Well, my oh my, how's that for a framing? The Russians don't want your tech to advance. They want to have it all. They want to steal the lead. This is all Cold War race in technology. Meanwhile, actually, China are leading that. Huawei is leading that. They've got a phone to release already with 5G capability. You know, who knows? America's actually lagging on that front. But I don't see 5G as an unencumbered, wave-through, safe measure that we should all be subjected to without far more health and safety. And never mind being behind the tech curve, we want to live. But in the four pillars of a totalitarian state, where constant surveillance, constant monitoring, knowing exactly where you are, and being able to even do thought experiments through your social media, pop adverts up to you, and do all the things like Schmuckerberg has just facilitated for the NSA, the CIA, and the GCHQ surveillance committee crowd by giving all your details away. Basically have a spy in your pocket so that they can at any stage call you in on your 30 felonies a day that you commit just by looking at someone wrong, using wrong words or language, future hate speech, etc., etc. Anyway, so just crap, nothing to get you excited here in the mainstream media. Don't read, don't buy these stuff. Get rid of WhatsApp is the message. And 5G is going to go marching on, and they don't give a shit about your health, and they'll tell you it's you're succumbing to a Russian and you're an enemy of freedom by having any concerns about 5G technology. Wow. Okay, I had good meetings here. It was really, really interesting. Loved Stockholm. You can see the guys scooting around. It's nice summer, warm weather. Really interesting. Looking into real ethical FX brokers that will give you great spreads but be around the EU current leverage limitations. Don't get me wrong, leverage limitations, there's a two-edged sword. The brokers are bleeding. That have now been succumbed to this, the UK and the EU. In other words, they're not making the same money around it. You can get professionally rated. You have to give all your information away, prove all your hidden net worth, etc., to be ranked professional, or to have passed a whole bunch of exams to do it. You can decide whether that's something you want to do, but otherwise your leverage has been taken away on Forex. If anything, this helps cryptos. I would argue some people are moving over to trading the cryptos. It helps brokers outside the EU get market share. And if you are doing that, why not be in the country that brings you the Volvo, where there's many of them around, where it's safe, neutral, not been involved in wars for a long, long time, and reliable, rather than some of the Middle Eastern options that are absolutely scary, particularly binary options, which I suggest you stay absolutely away from. I've seen behind the scenes the kind of people and how they view your deposits. You should be very, very careful out there. And yeah, I suppose that's primarily the message for today. And hopefully some of you are on the changing tack slightly on the crypto side. You were aware that there was a head and shoulders in our community. We discussed that quite extensively. We closed leverage trades north of the 8K mark, and Bitcoin's had a big smackdown to 7 grand and teetering around 7.3 now. We even trimmed some of our investment value, and this is just through applying. I get people saying technical analysis doesn't work on crypto. And I'm going like, it sure as hell looks like it works to me. The key thing is you've got to have real method. You've got to know how to read it. You've got to play safe. You've got to look across exchanges. You've got to understand volume. You've got to understand patterns. And you've got to have a sanity check and a community where you can avoid getting your bias too strongly asserted, as sometimes happens when you're alone. And if you want to find out more about that, pop over to themarketsniper.com. Otherwise, from Stockholm, I say goodbye and see you on the other side.